And here I am with a very special guest who I'm going
Oh,
to introduce in just a second. But why are we here to begin with? Um, we're just two singers just chatting it up about
right.
the singing life and what our industry is going through, what our musical community is going through. Everybody's been hit really hard. And I know that, some people are thriving and loving the conditions of this because it puts us, some of us, in a really creative space and kind of slows things down. But on the other hand, some of us are feeling a little lost and unsure of where things are going or what to do at this time. So we just want to take this time and talk about what is good, what's going on and how other people are
Yeah,
using this time to be creative, right?
that's right.
Yeah. So here I am with the incomparable Vangie
Aw,
Gunn. Um,
hello.
yeah, Vangie is, if you don't know her already, she's as professional gets.
Aw.
You really are to me, the epitome of a professional singer in every way. You are a session singer,
Yes.
singer-songwriter, performer,
Mm-hmm.
voiceover artist, a
Yeah.
teacher as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your beginnings, your vocal studies started at UCLA, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And then you moved on to Azusa Pacific University. You
Yep.
just got your MBA from Berklee School of Music.
Woo!
Yeah. Your your resume and your history of gigs kind of goes on and on. So I
Aw.
just want to tell everybody, I'm going to give some highlights here, but
Okay.
this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, these are very, very cool gigs, but I'm not even mentioning hardly, a fraction of them, I'm sure. But you've been a featured singer on Jimmy Kimmel. You are a featured soloist with the Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been featured with Disney on CBS, Fox shows like American Dad and Family Guy,
Yeah.
movies like A Bug's Life, Happy Feet, Evan Almighty, Bruce Almighty,
Mm.
Despicable Me, Star Wars, Rogue One, Spiderman Homecoming. You have worked with artists like Justin Timberlake. You're even heard in the gaming community, World of
Woo.
Warcraft, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's so cool. But you do so much more. You're just an incredible mentor to singers. You have some young singing groups. So we're just gonna jump in and get to as much of it as we can. But tell me, what have you been up to lately?
Okay. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Welcome. And this is an amazing outlet and platform for us to talk about how to keep on going no matter what. So I'm going to
Yeah.
fix this a little bit. Okay, there we go. Well, I got to be honest. Before quarantine, I was so crazy busy
Mm.
that I was doing like 12 to 14 hour or even longer days to the point where I'd be up and out by 7:30 in the morning, and then I wouldn't get back home until 11:30 at night, and just doing it again every day. And that went with teaching, driving, of course, and sessions, live gigs, all of it. And it was getting to the point where I was actually so stressed and so tired and so wrought that it was really affecting my voice, which I'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about that in a little bit. And so I kind of cried about it about literally about 4 days before we got into lockdown.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, I have to stop this. I'm doing too much, and kind of freaking out. And then 4 days later, everything got taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had a mixed view of it. Part of it has been wonderful for me, to reteach me that my value isn't in my crazy busyness. My value is in me and in my heart and character and love for others and empathy and building relationships. And then the other part of me is music, So that's been really wonderful, catching up on sleep and actually healing my vocal cords because of getting rid of stress,
Yeah.
of really sitting back and evaluating, what do I really need to do in my life? Well, I need to earn a living. Okay. But what do I need? Why do I have to do everything? So that's been great. And then extra time with my kids, which has been wonderful. And So that I've left. Now, on the flip side, every single gig and session and everything just disappearing has been shaking. The biggest one for me, there's two big, huge ones that went away. And so this is kind of the part of this conversation,
Yeah.
is I work for Disneyland and I teach vocal workshops there. And from February to June is our busy, crazy, amazing season, which we make a decent living and have fun. And I work with middle school and high school choirs for 90 minutes and teach them songs. We record it. It's an incredible experience. Well, those just in one day, I had 13 on the books, and in one day they were all gone.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was pretty huge for me, not only because financially, but also I love that job so much. It's so rewarding and so fun. So that was hard.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that was really hard was I was scheduled to sing at the Playboy Jazz Festival with Gordon Goodwin's Big Phat Band last Sunday on
Oh.
June 7th. Yeah. And so as quarantine was rolling, I kept thinking, we'll open up before then. We'll open up.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine. And then, about mid-May, I'm like, we're still going to be fine. It's still going to be fine.
They're gonna have
And
this
then
cleared up in no
it's
time.
very fine. I mean, we'll social distance at the Hollywood Bowl. I don't care. So, and so about mid-May, we got the call, and I was just like, oh, you're kidding me, because that would have been my first time singing as a soloist on the Hollywood Bowl. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, it's okay. And other things will happen, and I know that. So for the most part, I have been really loving this time. I've been writing music more than ever. I've gotten back to practicing piano, which I'm a decent player, but now I'm getting back into my hand and exercises and my classical music and jazz. I've exercised more than ever. I'm eating great. I'm cooking. If people know me, my friends watching me, I'm actually cooking. They're like, nah, I am. And gardening, I mean, come on. And just learning to slow down.
Yeah.
And so the big thing for me right now is deciding, as things are starting to slowly open back up, all right, how do I keep myself stress-free and yet continue to improve my career in the music industry, which stress-free and music industry do not coincide,
Right.
So anyway, that's it. That kind of was a big long one, but I've really enjoyed the forced reset.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Yeah.
How
about you?
Too. Me
Yeah.
too. And I totally agree and feel the same way that you do, where it really it because you're kind of just forced to stop. It makes you realize, okay, this is something, these activities in my life or all these things that I pursue so hard all the time that you think you couldn't live without. And then all of a sudden you realize you are doing fine without. It does,
That's right.
it takes,
Yeah.
it puts them in perspective, but I think it also takes this pressure off of them where my hope is that the change that carries through for me is that the things still matter to me, obviously.
Yes.
It still matters, but
yes.
I think it's going to matter in a different way where
Right.
it won't be that identity defining thing anymore.
Right.
It can be, it's a new iteration of what it was before,
Beautifully stated. Good job.
I think it'll make it more,
Yeah.
I hope it'll make it more meaningful,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Plus, I think because things are opening up so slowly,
Mm-hmm.
that when we finally get to do some things, it'll be emotional for all of us and valuable. And all of a sudden we'll realize how precious each event is instead of months ago where we're just going to gig to gig to gig to gig because that's what we have to do and we got to get there and we're tired and try to fix up and love it, but it also becomes a little bit of our tasks.
Yes, it does.
Rather than truly it's my passion. It's a part of who I am. I mean, music, I always say this, is like a limb. for me. It's not just a thing that I do. It is my innermost being.
Mm-hmm.
And so to again get this reset and to get back into what's the core of it anymore. And for me, it's not only singing, it's songwriting, and it's also teaching and imparting that love and knowledge to find the truth of music, which helps find who you are too. It's pretty deep.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. I think that's a great point, and something that, I also hope will carry over too is always kind of having that perspective when you are on just a gig, whether it's
Right.
we get into that space where like, oh, this is just another, this or that, but imagine if we were in that mindset of like, well, this could be the last one for a
Right.
while, or I hate to ever say ever, but
Right.
but to look at it that way and just to think of like how much that'll change the energy and the quality that we pour into each one, and
Yeah.
hopefully make it better.
It's true. We did I tour with Gordon Goodwin's Big Phat Band, and there's a smaller version called the Little Phat Band.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple weeks ago, we did a stay-at-home concert for a radio station called K-Jazz.
Uh-huh.
And so what we did is we went into a studio about 3 weeks ago when things were kind of opening up a little bit. And we had our drummer and our percussionist 6 feet apart in one room. We had our bass player locked away in a second room. Gordon was on the piano in a side room, and I was in the booth with the engineer 6 feet apart. And so we recorded our concert all with our iPhones. And then all of our horn players did theirs at home. And then we put the video together, and Gordon edited it and created the concert. And just that little bit that we were kind of together, I mean, we weren't really together, we were kind of together, lifted my heart and spirit so much that I was kind of bouncing off the walls for a couple of days. And it made me realize I really miss, first of all, just interaction. I'm a major extrovert here, but also doing music live with the people I love. So what you just said is true. All of a sudden, the value of that, even where it wasn't a real audience gig, it was still a controlled situation. And it still filled my heart, which was amazing.
Yeah. I've thought a couple of times and asked a couple other people that I've talked to the same thing where, as performers, we kind of have this consistent rush of adrenaline, or, this, the activating our vagus nerve, so often, and really getting that feeling. And it becomes, I think, normal to our bodies. And I wonder what that does to us physically, just shutting that off and then returning back to it. I mean, I've been singing and everything, but not with any adrenaline or anything.
Right.
So I wonder
that
what
performance
that'll be like.
says. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I feel like I got a little touch of it a few weeks ago when we did this other concert. And let me tell you, you're going to be like, when you get to finally do it. Yeah, and you're not going to be able to sleep. So just plan to clean house or something when you get home.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait.
I know. And you're so great at it. All your stuff is amazing. So I'm excited to see you guys get back rolling too.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned at the beginning, you've had this incredible career, and just, I wonder if you can kind of talk a little bit about where you started out, and if this is what you had in mind from the beginning, or kind of maybe where some of the twists and turns came for you.
Okay. Well, I am one of those lucky ones. I knew what I wanted to do at a young age. I started out as a preacher's kid, and my dad was a preacher. My mom was the music minister. And so when I was about 3 years old, they saw that I could sing. So my first place to sing was at church. I stood up on stage, and I was scared, little 4-year-old, and I sang Jesus Loves Me, like everybody. I know, 4 years old, sheesh. And it just, the bug got me. And so through my life, I sang with my parents. In fact, when I was about 7 years old, my brother and I and my mom and dad, my dad sold everything, bought a motorhome, and we went on the road.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we were the let's try that again, traveling evangelistic family. So my dad would preach and my mom and I would sing. My brother would sing a little bit. My dad would sing a little bit. So we did that for a year where we lived in a motorhome. It was great. It taught me a lot. But after about a year, all of us were like, we're done, you know? So we stopped in California, and then I kept singing through the years, and never really got into the session world as a kid. I didn't really have the connections at that time, but performed live a lot and always at school. And then went to UCLA, Zusa Pacific. And then after I graduated from college, I got connected with some recording sessions. And it started out in the gospel world, and then met the right people. And it was just, it took, I'd say a solid 6 years before I felt like I was really starting to meet the right people. You know, you meet one person, and from that one person, if they like you, then they'll refer you. And then from there, and then it just kind of webs out. But it took a little while for me. But I felt like I was kind of rocking and rolling in my mid-30s or so. And yeah, it's been amazing. It's been hard. You got to be cut out for it. The constant kind of hustle, or always looking for the next gig. You can never just settle down and go, all right, I'm good. Well, no, that money's going to run out. So I need something else, you know. But I was cut out for this, and I love it. I love the relationships and the excitement of walking into a session and not knowing the music, and they just put the music in front of you. And having to sight read it and make sure you get the right vocal timbre and style, and if I'm supposed to blend or if I'm supposed to stick out. And it's a blast. And let's see, what else did you say?
Well, I mean, I think that's a great answer, you know, talking about where you got. And it made me think that, and I'm sure that you have experienced this too, talking to younger singers who, you know, want to do what you do. And I think there's advantages and disadvantages to, you know, being young in this day and age, because I think with technology, there are a lot of new opportunities that may not have been available, you know, years ago or whatever. But because we're a very, what's the word I'm looking for, where things come quickly, you know?
Yeah, like instant gratification.
Instant gratification. Yes.
Yeah. We don't wait for anything.
No. And I think that a lot of singers don't realize that to have a career like you've had, the time that's been invested, the experience and the work that you've poured into it, not only that, your education level, the training that you've taken, because someone like you in a studio, you get called so often for these major gigs because of your skill level, which isn't that common, you know? So what do you, when you're working with young singers at Disney or, you know, others that you train, what is your advice on how they
great question. And I get asked that question a lot. And they say, so what do I do to really get my career to go? And I say, go to college. And they're like, what? You know, they're kind of taken aback. And I said, you get yourself to college, you hone your skills. And if you're a singer, you better learn how to read music and read rhythms. I said, we singers perpetuate the perception that we are not musicians. And I go, it's ridiculous. So you get yourself in there and you learn to sight read. Well, what if I never get good at it? I don't care if you are like the greatest sight reader ever. I want you to be proficient. I want you to understand these notes, you know, where's middle C and how to move, you know, and I do a little quick lesson. I go, see this note? Okay. Which direction does this note go? Up. I go, which way do you think your voice goes? Up. And I go, oh, now you read music, you know? So I go, now there's more to it, but get to it, get into that. And then I tell them, if this is your passion and this is what you want to do. And I go, you have to do it. And then I stop and I go, but it's super hard,
Mm-hmm.
but it's awesome, but it's super difficult, you know? So I go back and forth, and finally it starts to sink in. And then I say, and lastly, you guys, again, no matter what you do, if you're going to be a fireman, a doctor, a teacher, a musician, anything you choose in life, do not take no for an answer. I said, how many times do you think a wall's come up in my life? And Danielle, it still does all the time.
Yeah.
And so I look at that wall and I think, okay, am I going to climb over it? Am I going to climb under it? Am I going to find the other side? I go, I never let that wall stop me. And I had one girl at one of my workshops say, or you be Captain America and you power through it. And I said, oh, I like that,
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So that's the thing. If you, whatever your passion is, again, it doesn't have to just be music, but whatever it is, you go all the way. And you, life's going to hit you, man. I could just sit back and tell you about some of my crazy life stuff in the last few years. Okay. And yet, who am I? Am I going to still go? Am I going to still empower you, you know, and Mighty Untouchables and my kids and my students? Or am I going to sit back and go, oh, life has been hard and not fair, you know? Nuh-uh. It's all about your mindset. So anyway, that's what I try to impart to students is don't quit, go to college, hone your education, and don't quit.
Yeah.
So you just keep going.
It's great. It's great advice because as you well know, being a great singer is it's not good enough.
Oh, it's not.
Unfortunately, you know, you
Yeah.
can be the best.
Right.
And you know, don't be fooled that you can be the best singer and then launch your career on The Voice or American Idol or something
Oh
like
no.
that. Because
Yeah.
believe me, those singers that are going all the way on that, there's a lot more behind that than you
Oh,
realize.
let me tell you. I
Yeah.
sang backups on The Voice several years ago for one of the contestants. And it was a blast. But I remember I stood back and I watched what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I, at the time, my own personal kids were younger. And I was like, they will never go on this show. Not ever. Oops, should I even say that? I don't know. So I'm sorry. I love The Voice. Good job. Thank you for hiring me. You know? But there's a whole lot more politics going on than you see. Plus, it's an entertainment show, so they got to keep it entertaining, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But it still enforces the point that singing's not enough. When
No.
you know, when you do have the singing, have the education, but then when you also have the business acumen and you can navigate your way through politics and business, and you
Right.
may find yourself at an advantage in a situation like that if you
Right.
can business your way through it sometimes. But
Right.
you know, learning those skills, learning the soft skills of life, learning to be somebody that people like to be around,
Yeah.
and that can be, you know, have great work ethic. You know, you haven't gotten where you've gotten because you know, you're a jerk to be around. I mean, people like you and enjoy working with you.
Thank
So,
you.
and that
Well, I've
goes
had
a
my,
long
you know,
way.
fair share of stuff, which
Well,
let's
you
not
know,
talk about that.
we're not everyone's bag all the time.
Right. Let me tell you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, I know that your advice is totally accurate, and you have four of your own kids to prove it because you've raised up four monster singers of your
Let me
own.
tell you, man, you know, partly it's genetic. Their dad has an amazing voice
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
So it's partly genetic. But also, I mean, since they were little tiny kids, I'd go, oh, no, 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 go, ha, lift their palate or calm down, quit yelling, you know,
Yeah.
all the voice teachery things to say to make sure they kept those voices on
Yeah.
track.
Now, how did you I'm curious about this for selfish reasons because I have two little ones, 6 and
Okay.
7, and they love to sing. They love to dance. They love to sit at the piano and everything, but they want nothing to do with me. being involved in it. And I have, we've talked about,
Yeah.
taking lessons and doing stuff like that. And they're like, I'm already know what I'm doing, which
Mm,
is fine. I always want this to be a positive for them. At the same time, though, I
yeah.
recognize that, if you do ever want to
Yeah.
go anywhere with it, there does have to be a certain level of discipline
Mhm.
and commitment to it. So, how did you encourage your kids to get serious about it?
Well, it's tough. I will
Little
tell
butt
you that.
kicking and
Here and there, yeah. Sometimes I'd be extra strict and make sure they sat at the piano, and then a few months would go by and we slacked off. So,
hmm
my older daughters took it somewhat seriously, but took it really seriously once they went to college, and
okay.
they were like, "Oh!" And so then they told my younger kids, "Take it seriously because once you get to college, it's too late." Well,
Yeah.
so my younger two are doing well, better.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I'll tell you something. Just get a different piano teacher for your boys. It's way better to have someone else be cracking the whip on them.
Yeah.
Okay? Just make them practice.
Yeah.
But
I think it's going to come to that.
it's like dentist kids' teeth aren't the best. I don't know. No, sorry, I don't know if they are, but
Yeah.
we musicians tend to not enforce it because we're busy keeping our lives going, but it's really important. So pulling somebody else in to
hmm
help make that happen, I think, is important.
Yeah.
But then they'll thank you for it later. Let me tell
Yeah.
you, they really will.
I
So
hope so.
you should do
Yeah.
it.
Neither of my parents were musicians. My grandmother
Okay.
was, but she wasn't, with me all the time. And so they knew that I had this interest level in it, but they didn't I don't think they had enough experience in it to know how hard you really need to
Oh
push or
yeah,
be disciplined. So
yeah,
if I wanted the lessons, they'd provide them, but it really had to be, on my terms. So, looking back, I sometimes wish I did I wish I had more of that push. But because I wasn't raised that way, I kind of have a hard time doing it with my own kids. So
right.
I'm trying to, get somewhere with it, but I'm still working.
Yeah. Well, it's a rare kid that has that inner drive to
Yeah.
want to study and to want to practice. There are those out there, and they're the virtuosos like Jacob Collier and a handful of others. I call them the Mozarts, right?
Yeah.
But most kids, even with an inborn talent, need structure and need their parents to kind of force them,
hmm
especially these days with phones and games and iPads and just the way our society is. It doesn't um, lead towards a structured practice life, you know? So you as mom, you're gonna, if it's important, you have to crack down on it. And
Yeah.
I'm still doing it. I mean, Levi's 17 and Arya's 14, and Arya is brilliant on the piano. I gave her the Alla Turca from Mozart, and she learned two sections of it in a couple hours.
Mm.
And at first, when I told her you're learning this, she was like, "Eh." And I go, "Come on." So I sat her down. I played it a little bit, and so I said, "All right, you're on your own." And I left to go do something, and came back, and she was like, "Ba-da-dun-dun, da-da-dun-dun, da-da-dun-dun, da-da-dun." And I was like, "Oh," So,
It's
um,
amazing.
but it was because I finally said, sit down and practice. Anyway, so,
Yeah.
and it's on and off with me as well. There's some days I'm like, oh, forget it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just do your best and
Yeah.
talk about the long term. I think that's the big thing. And that's what I do a lot with my teaching.
hmm
You want growth, you guys, but you don't want to put the work in. So
Yeah.
you're not going to grow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your goals. Let's talk about the long term. And then once you start to grasp that, then you're going to start to see the improvement. And then, and then some doors are going to open for you.
Yeah.
So for my youngest daughter, her dream is to go to Berklee School of Music in
hmm
Boston. And I said, thousands of singers apply there. I said, you need to be a singer who plays piano well,
hmm
So all of a sudden she went, oh yeah. And so
Yeah.
now she's taken a little bit more seriously. So I don't know. Or you
Yeah.
can just say you can have your any candy you want by Friday if you practice every
It sounds like you have a pretty balanced technique, which I like to hear because it sounds like, you're very disciplined with them, but at the same time, when it's time to like just chill and, take a
Yeah,
break on it. Um,
whatever.
makes me wonder, speaking of being busy, you do all the things. You do session work, you are a
Yeah.
performer, you are an instructor, you are a mother. Uh, I'm sure you have a personal life of your own at some times.
Yeah.
So I mean, how how do you manage your time? What are some of your best practices kind of keeping you grounded and
Right.
organized and
Right.
sane,
Right.
you know?
Well, a big part of my life in the last 3 to 4 years has been to every day embrace gratefulness.
Mhm.
My name is Evangeline, actually, and Vangie short for that. And it means bringer of good news.
Mm.
And isn't that great? And
Yeah.
as a teenager, I realized what that name meant and thought, okay, I want to be that. So,
Mhm.
how do I do that? How do I be the bringer of good news? Well, when you're younger, it's a little easier. And then as you get older, life starts to beat you up a little bit. So, I remember in my 20s deciding, okay, every day there's something to be grateful for, every day.
Mhm.
So at different points in my life, that's really been challenged, as all of us, right? And so in these last like 2 to 3 years, I've really refocused on that. So that's part of it. So I wake up every day, and I have a pretty strong faith basis. So
Mhm.
I'll quote a scripture in my head, like, "This is the day that the Lord has made," or
Mm.
one of those verses, just to kind of be like, "All right." And
Yeah.
so then I'll think about, I am so blessed, the little things, to live where I live. I am so fortunate to have a talent. I'm healthy. I eat good food. I have a car that starts, and I mean, just stuff like that. So that kind of gets you settled in. So that starts my day. And then I'll, um, kind of look at what I have to do. And in quarantine, I create my schedule. It's great.
Yeah.
But part of it then is to value kind of devotion, meditation time, and then to practice vocally or whatever, and then to exercise and to eat right and make sure I keep on top of things that need to be handled so that when quarantine opens, it's not like kind of racing and catching up. I'm
Yeah.
settling on each thing. And then focusing in, of course, on a daily basis with my kids, making sure they're staying on top of their stuff. I mean, all of us moms learn how to juggle all these plates at the same time and
Right.
make sure they're spinning. But the biggest thing I've learned, again, in the last few years, because I've gotten a little older, is I have to take care of me
Yeah.
too. And that's been hard because, again, as a mom, we give so much, or if you're empathetic, you give, and you want to grow people.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, you can be neglecting yourself. So things like giving myself an hour to exercise, or sit back and watch the Netflix show I want to watch, or have a glass of wine, or whatever I allow myself to do. And vitamins. I take like 20 vitamins a day now. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know. I hope that answered it. I'm still figuring it out. There's
Yeah.
no,
It
I mean, there's some
sounds
days,
right. That's
yeah,
many of my days, but it sounds like you really try to start your days with intention, and you're
yes,
setting the stage
yep,
for the way you
yeah,
want things to go for the
yeah,
day, and you're setting
yeah.
it up with that gratitude and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that I have that's something that this time has really done for me, because you kind of get into this like breakneck pace of life where you wake up and you're just like ready to like get on it and get everybody moving and everything,
Right,
and before you know it, the day's half over.
right.
So something that's really helped me slow down is in the morning, the first thing I do is take my dog outside to go to the bathroom.
Smart.
And we live on this great property that's really beautiful and scenic and everything, but ordinarily I've not paid a lot of attention to it. But now I open the door, let her, run around, do her thing, and I'm taking the time to actually open my eyes
Yeah,
and look at the trees that are around me
yeah,
and look at
yeah,
the mountains that I can see. And it only takes a few seconds to stop and notice something like that to totally set the stage in a
Yeah.
different way for your whole day. And
Yeah.
seems so simple, but it is, I guess, you know.
It's no, it's
Hmm.
wonderful. That's the other thing I've gotten to do, excuse me, through this time is take some hikes and walks. So
Hmm.
same thing, where you really see nature, and especially with our pollution kind of lightening up in the last few months, it's
Hmm.
been amazing, our sky, especially the night sky. So I think
Yeah.
that's great that you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of taking care of yourself, I know that you're a runner and hiker,
Yeah.
and obviously
Yeah.
you're taking the vitamins and
Yes. Yes.
cooking for yourself, like you said. Um,
Yes.
how do you think that impacts you as a vocalist, and how you are vocally fit? And what would you tell singers now who are in this quarantine situation? How
Hmm.
when there's not a lot of live performing going on, so we kind of can neglect, the
Right.
actual exercising
Right.
and everything.
Right.
What do you think is a good regimen for a singer right now to keep themselves, with it?
Right. Great question. And this is something I talk about a lot and that I've been practicing with myself regularly. As a singer, you have to do some sort of vocal warm ups every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a little program. Here's my little teaching plug. I created an audio program and a video program of vocal exercises for warm ups as well as strengthening. But just even the bare minimum of 8 to 10 minutes of making sure your vocal cords stay pliable and working them, keeping them warmed up and able to move,
Yeah.
as well as don't go overboard with alcohol and junk. You got to
Mm-hmm.
still stay healthy. Now, when my students ask me, well, are you saying I shouldn't do anything? I said, no,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do everything in moderation. So, for example, what I say is before I sing, I don't drink coffee. No
Hmm.
way. Coffee just dries me out. And maybe the creamer or something,
Good
all of that
night.
in there, it jacks me up. Right. I know. You're like, bye. Okay. But
Meeting over.
after, I know you're like, you're out, woman. But after you sing, drink as much coffee as you want,
Yeah.
and that's just something for me. The other thing is I've had to watch, well, I just even watch what I eat. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of, in the mornings, let's say like if you're leading worship or something at church, I would only have a little oatmeal
Mm-hmm.
and tons of water and a little bit of tea. And then, but afterwards, anything, right? Um, you need to watch peppermint. You need to watch menthol that dries up and numbs your vocal cords in a way that
Mm.
you don't want.
Yeah.
Then again, I like a glass of wine, but big rule, I do not drink before or during singing. But afterwards, yeah, have a couple glasses, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, my vocal cords, it's not just about, oh, I sing. This is my livelihood.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I do, like you. So I have to constantly be aware of how I'm talking. So I don't talk down like this and put
Mm-hmm.
a vocal fry, right? I'm keeping it lifted, right? And I think about where I'm placing it. Even as I speak, I think about how I'm breathing, think about what I'm eating, sleep, stress. But if you don't mind, I'm going to segue into the vocal tension thing that I
Yeah.
discovered.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of us singers, as we get older, get the laryngeal tension. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you've heard much about this, and it is a killer. In fact, I think most singers, when they get older, if they understood this, they would probably have more longevity in their voice
Mm-hmm.
into their 80s. And so I discovered this about 3 years ago. I was having some massive tension and stress in my life, and it felt like I had a nodule.
Wow.
That's, singer's nightmare. And
Yeah.
what would happen is my high range, I go, and it would stop. Well, I'm a high singer, so I was freaking out. So I went into an awesome doctor. I will give her a plug, Rena Gupta. Go see her. She
Yes,
is
I've
the
heard that name. Yeah.
best. Okay.
Yeah.
And she scoped me and she said, you don't have a nodule.
Yeah.
It looks like you have some vocal tension. She goes, are you going through stress in your life? And so I kind of talked to her about it. And she goes, okay, you need to go get laryngeal massage. So I
Oh,
did.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Within an hour, my high range was back.
Mm.
So I have done a ton of study on this, and every single day I give myself a specific laryngeal massage, and
Mhm.
my voice has been fine.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of things that happen in your life and into your body that you don't even realize. And this is why now I'm stressing so much about self-care, taking care of yourself
Mhm.
as you get a little older. Because if you're a piano player, then you're going to start feeling it in your wrists, right? Or in your fingers or in your arms, your elbows. Athletes get it. So as singers, we get this too.
Mhm.
And it, even the tension up in our shoulders and neck muscles, our back, our sides, ribs, everything affects this puppy.
Yeah.
So it's a whole big process, including stretching and the whole deal to help keep it healthy. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's kind of what I encourage you all to do. Eat right, everything in moderation, no drugs,
Mhm.
and stretch, check your vocal cords, speak well, don't laugh too hard, don't yell,
Mhm.
all these things. If this matters to you, then that's what you'll do.
Yeah, yeah, I fully agree, and I know that the laryngeal massage is not widely known, unless you are working with, a voice teacher or
Right,
somebody who's
right.
familiar with that. But I know that earlier on in my career, when the pace I was working at was like a nightly thing, and it
Yeah,
was such a like grueling pace of singing and singing hard all the
yeah.
time. And I was scared of what I was potentially doing, to my voice, and it was just a really high pressure time for me. So I did go to see somebody who specialized in that.
Good.
It was Martin Grusin here in San Diego. He's passed at this point, but
Oh,
I had such a great experience with
yeah,
him, and it was remarkable
yeah.
how just doing some manipulation from the
Hmm.
outside, how I could walk in there barely able to even talk and then leave
Yep.
feeling strong and normal. Um, I feel like I've seen you mention somebody who specializes in that work.
Yes. Her name is Michelle Gordon.
Okay.
I have two people actually. Michelle Gordon is the one who saved me.
Mm.
And she's down in Tustin area. So everybody go to her. She's amazing. She's awesome. And then my second, I call her kind of my body breathing vocal therapist. Her name is Crystal Barron.
Okay.
She's
Yeah.
amazing. And she lives in Long Beach. And she and I went to college together
Okay.
and became colleagues and friends now later in life. And she came with me on gigs, and she was just working with me and giving me massage and doing all these things. And I mean, literally up to the point where I was walking out on stage, she was like fixing me and everything. And she would have come with me to the Hollywood Bowl too. But
Uh,
I know. She's like, I know. But she has been a life changer, and it doesn't even hurt. It's just like points. And you hear little crackles, and then I'm like, I
yeah.
got these crazy. I know. So yeah, I please everybody. We can put up their links later if you want
Yeah.
to do that because they're
Definitely.
amazing.
At the when we're done, I'll put links to everybody that we mentioned, and
Okay,
if
great.
there's some way that people can access the warm-ups and stuff that you talked about
Yeah.
too, I'd love to share
Okay.
that with everybody
Okay.
too. But
Sure. I'd love
yeah,
to do
that'll be
that.
great. It's definitely something that if you are a serious singer, it's really important to look down that road and
It
explore to
really is.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Um, Speaking of that, have you ever experienced any kind of vocal damage or anything like that that you've had to work back from, or just
No,
scares?
no vocal damage,
Mm-hmm.
thankfully. It was mostly just that laryngeal tension.
Mm-hmm.
I learned when I was in high school, I was a cheerleader. And so at every football game, they asked me to sing the national anthem at the beginning of the game and the
Mm-hmm.
school song at the end of the game. So all of a sudden I realized I can't yell because I have to sing. So I would just be like, and I'd mouth it, and all of a sudden at a young age, I learned I got to protect my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I love cheerleading, it's super fun. It's more important that I save my voice because I'm not going to cheer the rest of my life, except I'll cheer for you. Woo! Especially
Yay.
when I come see the Mighty Untouchables. I'm like, yeah, Okay, so, but so I learned at a young age. I've never had a nodule scare. I'm really thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
I've had times in my life where I'd lose my voice, but then I discovered it was due to the laryngeal tension.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really losing my voice. I was just, it was so tense. All this in here was like bunched up. So my vocal cords just didn't function the way they're supposed to. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very thankful that I haven't really had to deal with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it's so scary to even think
It is.
about it.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
really is. Yeah.
Uh,
There's life afterwards though. I have a handful of friends
yep.
who've had the surgery and then they're singing their guts out afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah, and
not
as
a
you mentioned,
killer.
the Rena Gupta, right? She'd be your
She's
person
the
to go and
one.
see if you're in the
Hmm.
LA area or San Diego
Yes.
even.
She is
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. Yes. Yes.
Uh, well, I know that's definitely something that singers stress about, and not to focus too much on stress, but I mean, if we're being real here, this is a stressful time, especially if this
It
is
is.
how you make your living.
Yeah.
And people are really going through the ringer with this and having to
We are.
get very creative and wondering, you know, uh, what they should expect, in the near future. They're looking at different avenues of, creating income for themselves. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, when you've been making your living doing it in a live
Yeah.
context, it's hard to think like, oh, can I do all this, online and get
Right.
anywhere with it? But
Right.
let's just say, let's just say this we're going to drag on quite a while longer.
Yeah. Which I think it is.
I think it is too,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
What, what direction do you think you'd go in?
Right. Well, I thankfully teach at a couple of universities.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving online with teaching has been kind of a natural flow for
Yeah.
me. So I finished out my semester with, how many students did I have? About 30 students. And I did Zoom lessons with them, and it was amazing. We finished that out. And now I'm on a new platform, which I'll put the link up on that a little bit later with my teaching. It's a phenomenal platform. So I think with teaching, it works to a
Mm-hmm.
degree. I mean, I still love the one-on-one. I need to touch your stomach and really look down your throat and make sure,
Yes.
where's your tongue? How are you placing things? When you're doing this with Zoom, you're like,
Yeah.
it gets a little awkward. If I'm standing up, I'm like, okay, let me show you my stomach, but I mean, it's still doable. I know you teach online, so it's a possibility. Now with recording sessions, it's a big possibility. I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing remote work for years, but I just did a real session, which I can't tell you about who it was, but it was for something really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And there were, I think it was a choir of 30, I
Oh,
think,
wow.
and all of us did it at home, did the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to sing in another language. So they sent us the example with our music. And thankfully, I have a rockin' home studio.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sang my part. And then we sent the stems of each of us sent our stems in. And then it's up to the editor to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing thing that is possible. In
Yeah.
fact, again, keep going back to the big fat band that I
Yeah.
tour with. During this time, Gordon wrote 2 songs because
Mm-hmm.
he's a writer. And so he sent it out to all of us, including me, because there was a little vocal section. And all 19 of us did our part separately and then came together we brought it all together to the incomparable Tommy Vicari, who put it together. And this song is amazing. And it's called The Reset, which is so fun. I'll put the link up of that too, because the
Yeah.
vocal section's really trippy. But anyway, so the encouraging part is it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, we're all figuring out what's the pay rate for this.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there are some limitations. The big part of it is the hang,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
we're really missing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but the encouraging part is that it is possible as long as composers and production companies and organizations are willing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel encouraged. I also feel concerned because not exactly sure how it's going to survive,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. So that's more of the real thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
I feel you so hard on that. I mean, I
yeah.
I get it, and I think that, but you know what? I think that's a practical direction to go with this is just talking about one of the obvious steps is setting yourself up at home, and this
Yes,
goes back to the point of
yes,
being a really great singer isn't enough. You've got to think
correct.
about, okay, how can you advance your knowledge of technology? You
Yes.
cannot put your head in the sand and be like, I don't know anything about microphones or computers, so
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
won't cut it. You've got to approach it and try. I mean, thank God for YouTube. I mean,
No
YouTube
kidding.
University is just about
Yeah.
everything you need these
You
days to
learn
set up a home studio.
everything. Yeah.
But you've got to do it, and just
You have to.
start with what you have at home, and then, build it piece by piece. But tell me about your home setup.
Okay. I have two different setups. I have one in my closet for my voiceover work, which that's been interesting. That's starting to kind of take off a little bit for me, reading audiobooks and a few other
Mhm.
things, little local commercials. So I have a small studio in my closet with, I use my laptop and a program called Twisted Wave.
Oh.
And I have a microphone and I have these cool baffles. I should have brought one down here to show you. And with the clothes in the closet and the baffles, it dampens the room really
Yeah.
nicely. And then there was something else. Oh, I have an interface as well, Focusrite, which is really important as you're recording for real. Okay,
Mhm.
just you other singers out there. Also, I have this little tiny microphone. It's a Shure that I can plug into my phone for quick auditions. So if I get a call from my voiceover guy or whoever, and they say, "Hey, we need to hear a quick sample of this," I have that. I just stick it into my phone, which Twisted Wave is on my phone too, and
Mhm.
I just go or whatever, and then I can send them that real quick so they can get a feel for it.
Mhm.
So that's more, the casual with the phone, the decent with the voiceover. But then we have a real downstairs, a real setup with a Mojave mic, and we work on Logic. I'm sorry, not Logic. Pro Tools and Digital Performer, full on big board. I mean, it's the real deal.
Mhm.
And we could have instruments in that studio as well. So I'm really fortunate with that.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is my little studio, closet studio, is very, very doable for most singers, as long as your microphone and your interface are decent,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and these days things are pretty affordable. I mean,
They are.
it's not like the thousands and thousands. It's not cheap, but
Mhm.
it's more doable
Yeah.
for all of us. So
It is. It's affordable and it's accessible and it's
it is.
so much more user friendly now than
It
it ever has
really
been. I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
I think if you're a singer that doesn't have any gear yet,
Yeah.
an easy place to start is to just to get yourself a USB mic, just to at least
Yes.
experience what an up-leveled sound is like, so that
Yes.
you can kind of become aware of the fact that these pieces do make a really radical difference in the way
Oh,
things sound.
do they ever?
Yeah, and then as you
Yeah.
can, just kind of start building on, little piece by piece. And I'm not a
Me neither.
technically savvy
Yeah.
person really, but so if I can figure this stuff out, anybody can. For
Yeah,
most of it.
I'm right there with you, girl. Yeah. Well, and part of it too is you want to stay viable, you want to stay
Hmm.
hireable.
Yeah.
And so you got to be able to do this.
Hmm.
And it's been pretty great to watch my colleagues who didn't have to do this step up
Yeah.
and find a way and get their home studios working so that they can stay working, and doing what
Yeah.
they need to do. So it's
Yeah.
great.
You
Yeah.
mentioned doing quick auditions on the fly on your phone and everything.
Hmm.
Um, this is something that I always try to hammer on a lot is uh, having those skills to work with people who are potentially offering you work. um, I'd love to know what you think of this, but I'm always one that says, like, respond
Oh
right
man.
away, and
Yeah.
and respond clearly, and
Yeah.
let people know you want the work and that you're
Yeah.
eager for it and that they're important to you. Um, how has that been for you in your career? How has that served you, and how do you
Well,
approach
it's
that?
been good and bad. I mean, when I was younger, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't respond fast enough and I lost things because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, back in the day, I'm old enough that it was pre cell phone days, so it was even pre pager days. Do you guys
Uh-huh.
know what a pager is? Okay. Where I'd come home and hear the messages on my voicemail, my
Yeah.
answering machine, that is. Okay. So, and it would sometimes I'd hesitate or just, that young kind of musician who, it'll be fine, whatever. So I had to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I lost a few things
Yeah.
because I delayed getting back in touch. Now, um, with email and texting and everything, it's a lot faster. And so I know how crucial it is to get in touch with somebody within a day or so. Now, with these quick auditions that I told you, this particular guy wants to hear from me like within half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a little stressful. But you just have to decide what you're willing to do. And there are a handful of people I'm like, you can just wait a second, I'll get to you.
Right.
And then there's other people where I understand the jingle business, it's such a fast turnaround.
Yeah.
So for those guys, I'm like, okay. And I have to go find a closet or a bathroom or something and be like, blah, 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 and
Mm-hmm.
then I get back to them. So,
Yeah.
but I learned the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
You get in your own head or your own world and don't always pay attention. So I think it's great if you're giving that advice to people because
Yeah.
the earlier you learn that, the more benefit you'll have from it.
Right.
If
Well,
that's
and I learned the hard way myself. So
yeah,
when you
we all
when you
do.
experience the pain of losing a gig because you called a day too late,
Oh,
is
the
so
worst.
unfortunate and sad feeling.
Yes,
But
yes.
it's it's funny that you mentioned, the days of like getting a gig on the pager. It made me think of the first platform that I started getting professional work from was an agency that I would call into, and they would have voice recordings of the available work. And so I'd listen to the recording once, write it down as quickly as I could, call back and listen to the recording
Oh,
again and write it down as quickly as I could
wow.
and just keep calling back every day. And I had notebooks full of people to call. And this was back when you like actually mailed
Oh,
someone your headshot
yes,
and a
yeah,
CD of
yeah.
yourself
That's
or
the
tape.
worst. That's actually really good. Do you still have those notebooks?
Oh,
Because that would be
yeah.
funny to look at.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, keep them. Yeah, they'll be good. Now look what I had to do, you
Yeah.
guys.
Like, you kids have it so easy.
You punks. I even tell my students that. I go, you guys are so lucky because I made a tape as my first vocal reel and then a CD. Woo. But how many of the people that I handed it to, they were like, thanks, or they used it to play frisbee or whatever, you know. So now I have a SoundCloud with my 25 samples
Mm-hmm.
and I have a website and, all these amazing platforms to be able to show who you are in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think students are so lucky. But you know what I do tell people, and everybody take this, don't just put up your TikTok just to put up your TikTok. And don't just put up a YouTube thing just to put it up there because if it's crap, it's out there,
It's out there.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And for real musicians and singers who want to really have a thriving career, do things, it doesn't have to be perfect, but do something that's worthwhile, that shows something, not just like you playing chopsticks or, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
really think about what you're putting out there these days. And that's one thing
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people think about
Yeah.
anymore.
That's
So
that's such a good point. And I'll just ask you this one last thing. Speaking of that, you are an incredibly versatile singer. I mean, I know you do all kinds of stuff. So knowing that, I'm sure in your vocal reel you've got samples of, all those different things. But
Yeah.
do you think now that a singer should shoot for that versatility and put all those kinds of samples out, or should a singer learn to hone in on
Right.
what they do best and stay focused on that?
Great question. What I say, it depends on what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be a session singer or kind of like the Mighty Untouchables or a band that needs the variety, then you need to have that sampling of what you're capable of doing. And if you want to do voiceover work, you want to try to get into jingles, session work, all of that, you need that variety. Now, if you want to be an artist or you want to really dig in on your sweet spot, then just capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of what you want at the heart of it. Now, for me, this is a really hard discussion because I was pushed so hard to get the variety to prove what I could do in sessions. So that's what my reel became about. But then after 10, 15 years of doing that, I had some producers go, yeah, I know you can do it all, but what's your sweet spot? And I remember I was like,
anything you want.
I can do it. Yeah. And he goes, no, what are you really good at? And I'm like, really? And I said, I finally realized, okay, R&B jazz. That's kind of my sweet spot with a little bit of heart, like rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And I go, basically your power female vocal. So think Shaka Khan, Ann Wilson, Celine Dion. And he went, okay. Mm-hmm. I said, so there you go. Does that help you? And he goes, yeah. I go, but if you need a classical voice, I can do that too. It's ridiculous. And he goes, well, can you sing Celtic? Yes. So the problem is, as a freelance musician, I want the work, but I understand that they want to hire the strongest people for the particular style. Mm-hmm. So that didn't answer your question at all.
Yeah, it does. And I just think it's another one of those things to learn as singers is that there's not one avenue in singing. I mean, there are so many roads that you can really walk down with this. Mm-hmm. And, take a peek down each road and see what really, what charges you up, what feels good to you, and then really make a commitment to it, once you've decided that way, right? But anyway, I thank you so much for taking the time to do this and your willingness, and you're just so, generous with all your information. I wish, I'm sure I could talk to you all night about this stuff and nerd out on some voice stuff. But are there any performances or online things that people can see you sing at anytime soon?
Let me see here. Okay, I got to turn this up. My headphones died, of course, so I'm barely hearing you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know where I'm hearing the sound, but I'm going to do my best here. Let's see. We've got a lot of things, or I have a lot of things that are already archived online. Mm-hmm. We just did that live concert with K-Jazz last Sunday, but it's on my Facebook page. Okay. So that's easily accessed. It's just a few posts down. And then we did a series called the Quarantine Concerts that are starting to go up on YouTube. So I have one original piece up there that Gordon and I wrote together. But then I'm going to be uploading all the other ones. I think we did 6 concerts. The first 6 weeks of quarantine, we were like, yes, let's do this. And then after the 6 weeks, we were like, we're tired.
Yeah.
But then we have another live thing coming up, and I'm doing a lot together with Gordon. He and I work together all the time. He plays for me and I sing and we write and all that. It's really fun. But we have a thing coming up on July 1st for the LA College of Music. And so LACM, go to their site and you'll see they're calling it an event, but it's kind of like a mini concert. Mm-hmm. So that's coming up. And then, I don't know. I don't think we have anything else really booked. However, we are working on getting a live gig at a drive-in theater.
Oh,
coming
how
up here in
cool.
August,
Nice.
because you can still socially distance.
Yeah.
You stay in your cars, you know, right around your cars, and we'll be way up on stage. So I'm talking with a handful of drive-in theaters right now, and we're trying to get some live gigs. So that might be something you guys should do too. It's really
Yeah,
fun.
that's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll make sure that I put links up to all the things we talked about, and I'll get in touch with you to the side to get the things that you mentioned. But again, I so appreciate you doing this. It's
Oh,
great
my
to see your
pleasure.
face, and good to know that you're doing so well. And
You too.
hopefully we can catch up and do this again.
I hope so.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vangie, and thanks for everybody who has tuned in and watched tonight. Hope you got something good out of it, and we hope to see you really soon.
Yes. Take
Okay.
care. Bye,
Good
everybody.
night. Have a
Mwah.
great night.